Hey guys, Scott here, and today we're going to talk about some hot drama budding between content creators. Nobody, because who fucking cares? We're talking about the actual arguments that they're actually making. There's no actual drama because this is just actually an interesting thing to think about. And there are a lot of actually good points on both sides. And the main thing I want to talk about is the whole, what is a win? Is it based on hooks or based on how many times, you pip, or how many people that you kill or whatever? That's the main thing I want to talk about because I think there's a lot of interesting debate to be had there. But first, the original tweet by True, which basically says that people doing challenges and things like that are not good because it makes this false perception that the game is easier than it actually is. Interesting thing. I was actually going to make a video about this like a week ago. Ots actually referenced the video in his video, where basically it's making the same argument but in a profoundly dumb way. And he's just the person that made the video is just an asshole, basically. I'm basically saying content creators are all the devil for, having win streaks and stuff like that. So I was going to make fun of that video, but I realized that was immature and I just threw it away. But now I guess I have an actual chance to be mature about it and talk about the argument itself and not the person who made the video. And I think that's a much better way to go about doing things. So first, let's talk about the actual argument being made about 4Ks being bad for the community. Now, the argument being made is that when you have someone like Ots do, 50k win streaks, that's a lot of win streaks, 54Ks, or, Dowsy like wins 100 times with twins, or I win 30 something times with like pre-buff speed limiter Leatherface, that we're creating the illusion that the game is easier than it actually is. And I understand the criticism there, and a lot of the times we might even brush it off like that, but I assure you the main takeaway from this is that we're not saying that the game is incredibly easy or anything like that. We're not basically saying, hey, everyone can do this, because that's a lot of the arguments that people make about this too. They're saying, well, if, Ots can do it, everyone can do it, right? And no, that's not true. Ots can do it because he's better than you. I don't know how to talk about this section of the video without seeming egotistical, but the reason that people are able to do this is because they're better than you. I don't know how else to say that. They're not trying to say that the game is super easy or anything like that. They're just really good at the game, and they're able to do that, as they should. Once you get to a certain level where you literally play the game for a living, you should be able to win the majority of your matches with whatever that you've got, because you're better than most people to play the game. I don't know how to go more in depth with this argument, because that's sort of the end of the argument. That's just it. They're just better. The end. I don't know. I don't know how to go further than that. There's no agenda where we're trying to make people think that the game's easier than it actually is. We're just good at the game. That's the end of that one. So now let's talk about the actual main thing I want to talk about in this video, which is, how do you define a win? Now, True Talent's perspective has always been that getting as many hooks as possible, like 12 hooks, is an extremely good win. Ots and I have more of the similar perspective, where just killing everybody is the main objective, and absolute lunatics believe that getting Medal of Man to activate is the true win condition. And the whole point of this video is that these are all kind of correct, because to this day, there is no defined win condition in this game. There just isn't. The developers have never come out and said, hey, this is how you win a game as killer, this is how you win a game as survivor. It's just extremely unclear. And because of that, people have started to develop their own win conditions. Tournaments have to make their own win conditions. Streamers make their own win conditions. And because of that, everyone's got differing win conditions, and thus debates start. Not arguments or anything like that, just people have different viewpoints because there's no clearly defined viewpoint. And so I don't really think anyone is right. I think some have more merit than others. I think 4Ks are the closest you can get to a universal win condition, because it removes variables from the equation. For example, if you're playing a slug-heavy killer like Oni or something like that, you're going to get less hooks than, like a Wraith or something like that. It doesn't mean the Oni played worse. In fact, he played exactly how he's supposed to, but by, the whole system that True goes by, that would mean that the Oni is worse because he slugged more, even though that's intended. And if you play him not that way, you're actually nerfing the hell out of yourself, because you lose your power all the time when you pick people up. So in that scenario, I think a 4K is the most universal way to target a win, because it doesn't care about any variables. At the end of the game, if everyone's dead, you win. And I think that's the best way to do it. Now, I understand where True's coming from, because the position that he has is a noble one. It's with good intention. The reason he wants it to be 12 hooks every game is because it gives survivors more of a chance to play. No one likes getting slugged. No one likes getting tunneled. Although the tunneling part, you would still have the same amount of hooks. I guess it's mostly just about anti-slugging, but it basically would mean the survivors have more of a chance to play the game. And it's a noble goal to shoot for. That's actually an ideal world for this game. But that's not how the game works. And that's not how the game has ever worked, and that's not how it will ever work. They take 6 months to update like two things on the UI. They're not going to rebalance the entire game to be based on hooking everybody 3 times. It's just not going to happen ever. So I think basing it on that is simply unrealistic. But it's not wrong, because like I said, you can make your win condition off of whatever the hell you want. But I don't think that's realistic at all. There's another thing that True sort of bases his opinions on winning on like pips and things like that. I don't think basing wins off of pips is a good idea either. And I have to be clear in reiterating when I say I don't think it's a good idea. Doesn't mean I'm right. Doesn't mean he's right. No one is right about this because there's no clearly defined win condition. But I think basing it off of pips is not... it's the whole uniform idea. There are too many variables with that. A lot of killers, like for example, if you play Hillbilly, you might get much less in the Chaser emblem and get 1 less pip or something like that because of the killer that you're playing, even though you do the exact same thing. And that doesn't seem fair at all because you didn't play worse. You're just, you get less Chaser emblem because Hillbilly, for some reason, when he's chainsawing people, just gets less. And that doesn't seem fair. There are also a bunch of problems like survivors killing themselves on hook. Now you're going to get less, hook emblem. And survivors just disconnecting. Like what? If all 4 survivors disconnect, you lose the game? That would be the ultimate killer counter. You can make the killer lose every single game because then all survivors could just DC and then you just never have a chance to win because you didn't pip now because it's basically impossible to do so if everyone DCs. So I don't think basing it off a system that the developers themselves have said is broken. Like that's the thing. Like the developers themselves has even said the pip system doesn't work. So why would you base your wins off of a system that has admittedly not worked at all? By the developers of the game, they've said it doesn't work. It just seems like you're just making up just random win conditions. But that's sort of the basis of my argument here, is that that's what everyone does. Everyone's making up random win conditions. My win condition, for example, is that nobody escapes through an exit gate. If someone gets out through the hatch, I don't really care. I still consider that a 4K because the only thing that separates me getting a 3 and 4K there is slugging the 3rd guy and looking for the 4th, which I don't care enough to do for. It's just a pain in the ass that's boring for the survivors, so I just don't care. But some people might say, well, it's not a 4K, it's not a full win, and that's fine. Your argument's just as valid as mine. The whole thing is that we have very different opinions on this, but none of them are really right. I do think that basing it on 4Ks is a little bit more right, if that's fair to say, because of the fact that, it's very uniform across the board, and it doesn't really care about that. But for the most part, I think that no one is essentially wrong here, and it's a fun thing to discuss and debate about, because no one can really lose the debate, because, both sides have perfectly fine merits. But overall, that is the video. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this. It goes without saying, just don't be a dick, obviously. Both sides have pretty good viewpoints here. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to talk to. This is the downside about making my videos without a script. I just rant. But I think that is about it for now. Thank you for watching, guys, and hopefully I'll see you next time.